Hey there, this is Dave Kilm. The channel here on YouTube is Milk Punch. If you're watching this on one of the other social media streams, the channel is still called Milk Punch. I know. Pretty sneaky. Hit subscribe if you don't mind. We're trying to get to that all important 60 subscribers. 60. We're, moving on up after a little more than a year. 5 or so new subscribers a month. That was my goal, and I'm almost there. Hit like, hit notification if you care. If you don't, okay. Sorry. So, the Ford Flex, and I wasn't really going to talk about this, but the one in front of me is not cooperating on this drive. The Ford Flex, though, is the ugliest, dumbest concept car that somehow made it into production in the last 20 years. Maybe, oh, Jesus, here we go. Hang on, everybody. We're all gonna die. It is a giant boxy station wagon. Stupid. Although, we had a station wagon when I was growing up. The Ford Country Squire. Honestly. I don't know. It had a V12. I don't know. It had some giant freaking engine. And it was a pretty fancy country squire. It was a pretty fancy station wagon. It was baby shit yellow. And it had fake wood up and down the sides. And it was... I think like brown pleather or vinyl seats. Had the third row rear facing seat, which as a kid I loved. And it had a fully retractable window on the back door from the driver's side, which, okay, that's interesting. But I grew up with a lot of weird cars. My dad was a small business guy, and so sometimes he traded for cars, he bartered for cars, all kinds of weird things. So growing up, we had a bunch of weird cars. The Ford Country Squire was one of the nicest. When I was really little, my parents were kind of hippies, and so they had VW microbuses. And the VW microbus, and I'm not sure about VW anymore, but it used to be, the engines were in the back, like the Beetle and the bus, and the engines were in the back, the Carmen Ghia, and they, because they were German, and Germans clearly, I don't know, are hardier or something. The only real heat they had was just sort of blowing over a warm engine, and so therefore I spent most of my young life covered in blankets in the winter in the microbus, because it never got warm in there, ever got warm. So we had those, and then we had there was a dealership up, and I didn't mean to be talking about this today, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of funny all the stupid cars we had. There was a dealership in the Chicagoland area, Solozzi Edelson, and if you grew up there, you would totally recognize Solozzi and Edelson. Two brother-in-laws, two friends, I don't know, they were the deal. They both wore like silver shiny shark tooth suits, and they always waved money where you always saved more money. I don't know what it was. Anyway, they at a time had, I'm pretty sure it was Solozzi Edelson, had a 2-for-1 deal. If you bought a Ford F-150, you got a free Ford Pinto. So, there was a time when my parents thought about moving to Madison. I mean, more than thought about it, they almost bought a farm in Madison, or near Madison in Wisconsin. And so they bought an F-150. And they got a Pinto, which ended up being the car that I got to drive in high school. It was a robin egg blue 4-speed 1-cylinder, bucket seats in the front, bucket seats in the back with the transmission in between, Ford Pinto. Now, this was after the Pintos that exploded, thankfully. I'm sure my parents checked on that before I got the keys. But yeah, so that's what I got to drive whenever, you know, I was driving, because I didn't have my own car. I just had to, whatever. But so we had that for a while, and then my dad had a series of mid to late 70s gigantic green cars. I don't even know what they were, but they all were some sort of shade of green. And there would be like a different one every couple of years. And because he was just, you know, he didn't care, which is fine, you know. I mean, I'm not a big car guy myself. Like I said, I don't even know what kind of cars these were. But it was just, that's, you know, and you know, grew up often on the side of the road someplace because the car would not work. It just would die. And of course, it would always die when my mom and I, or my mom and my sister, or the three of us were driving someplace in the winter. So it was always sort of a nightmare. The one car that I really, really liked was a green Jeep. I think it was a Grand Cherokee, and it had some problem where you had to jam a screwdriver you had to open up the air filter and jam a screwdriver to keep the carburetor open to start it. But then once it started, it was fine. So my mom would pop the hood, and I would get in there and I would unscrew the lid to the air whatever thing and jam a screwdriver into the center dealie, and then she'd start it. Well, you know, I mean, this is like mid-70s, no, late 70s, early 80s. There's no cover on the fan. So to get the screwdriver out and to do, you have to like almost get cut in half by the Jeep fan. But you know, hey, whatever it takes to get to school or wherever you're going, I guess. Anyway, this wasn't supposed to be a montage of Kelm family vehicles, but I guess that's what it turned out to be. So thanks everybody. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.